Hey, I am in the garden today and we have a job. Our job is to do some pinching. You're probably wondering, what in the world are you going to be pinching, Allie? Well, I'm actually going to be pruning some things. So certain plants, flowers, shrubs, trees, vegetables, fruits, they can benefit from actually pruning in a number of ways, and I'm going to show you how I do it. This plant right here that's blooming is bachelor's buttons or coxcomb. It's a gorgeous cut flower for a vase in your home. It's gorgeous just out in the garden. That deep lavender blue hue is something I just love. Purple is my favorite color. This is a really good example of a plant that you definitely want to pinch or prune because it will reward you with longer stems and it will keep producing flowers as long as you keep cutting on it and as long as you still have gorgeous weather. Okay, not to get super sciencey, but basically the idea behind pinching or pruning is that the top parts, the stems of your plants, have a specific type of plant hormone among many called auxin. Auxin is what's keeping the growth going and going. If we cut off the supply of that auxin by pinching or pruning, it sends a message to the stem that, hey, we need to send out some branches and go this way. So the whole idea behind why we pinch or prune any types of plants in our garden, depending on which like it and which don't, it's actually going to produce a couple different things for us in the garden. We're going to get a lateral growth. Basically, we're going to get more branches and offshoots, which produce more blooms. One thing I have observed in my own garden by doing little science experiments is that when I pinch, especially zinnia plants, they are going to give me longer stems and bigger blooms. And that, to me, especially bringing them indoors for a vase, is very important. Not only flowers, but also herbs, bushes, and certain trees can be pruned or pinched. So I have this gorgeous, oh my gosh, it smells amazing, peppermint plant. And I would love for some of these pieces to come indoors with me for some peppermint tea, for some different things in the kitchen. And then if I do end up pruning this, what's gonna happen is wherever I cut on these branches, it is gonna produce two stems. So it's gonna branch out and create more plant. So hopefully I can have more peppermint. To give you an up-close example of where I would cut on a plant, and this can go generally for any plants, look for some leaves or find leaf nodes. Once you find out where the leaves or the leaf nodes are on the stem, where you're going to cut below a leaf node. And then we can take all of this indoors, clean it of course. So hopefully at this cutting, we will have two branches form and it will become a bushier plant. So by pruning, what it does is it allows the plant to continue growth. It will stop any type of flowering stage and it will stop any seeding. So if you do not want your plants to go to seed, this is also a really good benefit that you can take into your garden. Here are a bunch of zinnias. These are a really great example, again, of a flower that's going to benefit from pinching. So right as they're about to bud, I know it seems heartless, but you want to snip it. Get rid of that bud, and then we're going to get double the blooms and double the branches. Here's really good examples. This zinnia is about to bloom. Look how short it is. That's not going to do me any good, especially if I'm growing to sell cut flowers. Of course, I could put that in a vase, but I would love a longer stem. So I need to come in and do a snip. And I know some gardeners do like to root their cuttings because they will root. They're very much like tomatoes. This bachelor button bush is a really great example. Every time I cut it, it keeps coming back and blooming again and again. The stems keep getting longer and I continuously get bees and other pollinators to my garden. By doing this, again, I am stopping the plant from going to seed. Because if you ever notice, you can pay attention to certain flowers, like this one, for example, that is starting to die. As soon as the flower starts to die, it has potential for going to seed. These sweet peas behind me are a really great example of why you should pinch some types of plants. These sweet peas are over 6 feet tall and they have the longest stems. which is very important, especially if you love a good cut flower like I do. Of course, you can leave them short. I have a lot of short vases, but if you want a longer stem, pinching is the way to go. We've been talking about plants that actually will benefit from pruning or pinching, but there are certain plants and certain flowers, certain trees, shrubs, whatever, that do not like to be pinched. Behind me is one of them. You can see these green stalks that are starting to shoot up. This is a gladiolus plant. These are from bulbs that I planted this past early spring. This is a plant that once you cut it, you are not going to get any more blooms from it, so you need to keep that in mind. I cut mine and put them in the vase inside, but if you still want the blooms outside, I would suggest leaving them on the stalks. Behind me is a hollyhock plant. This is a biennial flower. It blooms on its second year and then it'll set to seed. This is a flower that you do not want to pinch or prune in any way because you're not going to get blooms, or if you cut off the blooms, you're not going to have any more come back. It's not a cut and come again. But if you want to cut them, you can. When it comes to figuring out if the plant or the flower, whatever you're looking at, needs pruning or can actually benefit from it, I would highly suggest going online. Finding either a local extension office that's published a paper, or maybe other gardeners that have talked about it in their blog and what is successful for them in their pinching journey. This is what I still do to this day. Peppers like jalapenos and bell peppers are really great options. If you have a long growing season, I know a lot of farmers really do like to pinch their pepper plants. Personally, I am not this year. I'm just gonna experiment with it and see what happens, but that is something that you can consider for certain veggies like peppers. So here I have tomatoes that are an indeterminate variety. Indeterminate tomatoes you do not want to pinch. You can pinch them at the end of your season to make the fruit actually start to ripen, especially if you're closer to a frost. But in general, tomato plants are not one that you should be pinching or pruning. A lot of gardeners will pinch what we call suckers. If you find the main stem of your tomato branch and then find that 90-degree angle, plant that's starting to grow outside of that, right at the collar, you can pinch that. And this will allow other energy to go to fruit production. If you like to pinch plants in your garden, what type of plants have you pinched and what have you seen? I would love to hear your journey, what you've learned over the years, and maybe I can incorporate it into my own garden. Hopefully this is helpful in your journey to gardening, and if you found it helpful, I would love if you followed me along on my journey as well.